Hey everyone, and welcome back to Small Engine Edge. Today we're going to go over something that I get asked numerous times every year, and that's why do you do free estimates? Well, the answer to that comes from when I first started this business, I wanted all the work that I could get. I wanted that stuff to come in, that way I could give them an estimate on it as opposed to them going to the other guys and letting them repair it. Well, the problem with that is a lot of the stuff you get is stuff that people bought at a garage sale for $2 or $3, and they want you to diagnose the issue so A, either they can fix it, or B, they can know whether it's junk or not. A lot of times it's going to be junk. They may have even picked it up off the curb. Who knows? But I'll show you how to quickly and efficiently diagnose those issues without wasting a bunch of time. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as we go along if you enjoy the content. The problem with a lot of the two-stroke equipment is it's not really worth a whole lot of money. So if you get into any sort of teardown on these pieces of equipment, you're probably going to run over what this equipment's worth. We get a bunch of stuff like this. I pulled some of the worst ones out or some of the ones that aren't high quality. This is stuff we get this table full probably twice a week during this time of the season. If we spent a half an hour diagnosing all this, we would never get any work done. A lot of this stuff is not going to be worth fixing because it has issues that are going to be more than the cost of a new unit or close to it. These pull and chainsaws, we get them all the time. This is one of the prime examples. Usually, once we take a look at them, the fuel lines are all deteriorated. The primer bulbs are completely gone. The carburetors have seals that are bad in them. By the time you do a full rebuild on this, or a full carburetor kit, primer line, and then primer bulb, you're going to be way over what the customer is going to want to spend on this piece of equipment that they bought 10 years ago for $150, right? You're going to be right there or close to it. Once we estimate that, so without doing much to this, I'm going to see that primer line's gone. I'm going to check out the fuel line real quick, and I'm going to say, hey, that thing is probably not going to be worth repair, but I'll give you an estimate on just doing that. I'm not going to do anything else to that to start off with. If they approve a carburetor and everything, I'll pull the cover off. I'll do a compression test. I'll pull the exhaust off, and I'll check out the cylinder. But otherwise, this chainsaw, since everything else seems to function fine, this chainsaw, I'm not going to put any more time into. That is my estimate, is the carburetor, the fuel line, primer bulb. That should solve all the issues, but I'm not going to go any deeper unless they approve that repair. If they do, again, that's time for your compression test, and that's time for pulling the exhaust off just to make sure that the cylinder's not scored. Do that on these before you do anything else if they're looking in bad shape. Estimate what it would be. Don't worry about the deeper engine issues, and you can always call them back later and tell them, they approve the repair before you order anything, pull the cover off, compression test, muffler off, make sure the cylinder is good. Then if there is an issue with that, you can call them back and say, hey, we got further into it. This thing is not worth repair. Otherwise, you can go ahead and order the parts. Make sure everything else is good. Make sure the pull cord's not in bad shape or anything to that effect. Make sure the brake works, chain and bar's in good shape. But if they're not willing to spend that money to begin with the things you see right off top, there's no reason to investigate further. Zero reason to do that. Don't waste your time putting your efforts into diagnosing this further if the original repair wouldn't even be worth it for the customer anyway. For instance, this one here, the complaint is that the choke knob broke off. New carburetor, here we come. That's the estimate. If they want to go ahead and do it, I'll run a quick compression test. Otherwise, I'm not messing with it. No reason for me to pull the muffler off. No reason for me to run a compression test. No reason for me to go any further if they're not going to want to put the money for a carburetor in it anyway. If they are, I'll spend my 5 minutes estimating it a little further. Another good instance, say this echo blower. If we're looking at it, the primer line and bulb and everything is all completely cracked out. All of that's going to need replaced. And again, the gaskets are probably bad in that carburetor. Without going any further, I would instantly say, hey, this is not worth repair. I wouldn't give a quote on this because This blower selling used like this is probably worth maybe $60, right? It's to replace it. You're $160 to go buy a nice steel blower. It's not something that's going to be worth your time with everything that's going on with it. That's just, besides the fact that a lot of other things could be going on, not worth it. Now, when you get into your chainsaws and higher dollar pieces of equipment, that's great. Spend a little bit more time on it. But look at this one. I mean, it's covered. It's probably, by the time we go a lot further, from the looks of it, it's probably got some sort of crankcase leak or something. We can run a compression test on this all day. This guy said it hadn't been ran in 8 years. Okay. This thing is in pretty rough shape. Would he want to put any money in that? Something that hasn't been ran in 8 years is probably going to need quite a bit of work. So the first thing we're going to do, regardless if the primer line and bulb and everything isn't all jacked up, we're going to go ahead and empty the fuel, put some good fuel in it, see, once we prime it out, see if it'll run okay. Very, very highly unlikely, but if it does run, that's great. We'll do anything else that we need to do to it. But it's very unlikely with this thing sitting for 8 years that that's going to be the case. It does not look like it had a whole lot of use out of the bar, but the rest of it looks like it's in pretty rough shape. Your smaller steels and stuff, these are almost always going to be worth repair, so you may want to put a little bit more effort into them, depending on what's wrong. Your Echoes and your Husqvarnas and your larger chainsaws. The first thing I do, if the primer line and the primer bulb and everything is in good shape, again, empty the fuel. I dry it out, so I'll blow the whole reservoir out with some air. Prime it if it's got a primer. Get all the fuel out of the primer line, or out of the primer bulb and out of the primer line, and blow it all out and put our fuel in it. See if it'll fire up. That's one of the very first things I do on a piece of equipment like this. If it fires up and runs halfway decent, hey, we just need to flush the fuel system and probably adjust the carb. It's very easy, and you're done in just a couple minutes. It doesn't take any time at all to give those sort of estimates. Same thing if it's on an Echo or a steel, same kind of deal. As long as the primer bulb and the lines aren't completely shot, go ahead and dry the tank out, empty the lines out, throw some fresh fuel in it. A lot of these issues are just going to be fuel-related issues. But if all the lines and the primer bulbs and everything are gone on them, they may or may not be worth fixing. Again, a lot of this stuff's $160 or less, especially when you're talking about blowers. Get another steel. These are nice, and they are more expensive units, so you're going to be able to spend a little more time diagnosing them. Make sure your brakes work. Make sure the chain and the bar is all in good shape. You can run a quick compression test if you'd like on that. Otherwise, you can give them an estimate without that also, once you check everything out. This one, once we empty it out, it may run perfectly fine or run halfway decent until we adjust the carburetor, but at least we can let the customer know that that's the case very easily. Here, it looks like we may have pulled the plug right off top. Yeah, there goes your spark plug boot. But it looks like we pulled the plug, probably did a compression test. It's got an orange on it because it's probably not worth repair. Looks like we've got another steel over there with the same thing. Some of these, it is easy just to do a quick compression test and see. Other ones, it's a little bit more difficult depending on what it is. Another Echo. This thing looks in a halfway decent shape. Now this, we get many relics like this. This thing has probably been sitting forever. It's probably a case where somebody didn't exactly take well care of it, or it sat around not being used forever in a garage, in a shed, who knows? It's not too difficult of a thing to throw a quick compression test on it. But the problem with this is going to be, if the seals and everything in the carburetor are all gone, it's going to be probably hard to get parts because this isn't a standard model. Now, what happens if you estimate all that to the customer, you get it running, and you realize it's got a crankcase leak? You're going to be a lot of time and effort into something that, really looking at this, you probably already knew it's likely not worth messing with. So don't spend and waste your time on something like that. This one here, somebody actually gave us. It's tagged as ours. And what's the first thing you would do if a leaf blower like this came into your shop, whether it was given to you or not? The primer bulb is cracked to begin with. It's completely deteriorated. Even if it wasn't, even if this thing was perfectly good, even if all the fuel lines and everything were good, the first thing I would do is throw that thing to the trash. These are extremely old. They have virtually zero value. I don't really know how to read the serial number there. It almost looks like a 01297. I'm not sure if that's from 97. I really don't know, but not worth your time estimating, not really worth your time taking in. We would have told the customer that right off the top if it would have been one of the mechanics. Kind of the same thing with these old hedge trimmers. Most of them are so beat up it's not even funny. They're not meant to last. This one actually has good fuel lines, good primer lines. May it be worth flushing the tank out, emptying that all out and putting some fresh fuel in? Possibly. We have a $45 minimum though. Is this customer even going to want to stick $45 into this? Good question. I'll estimate it at least that based off what I see here. Nothing really else broken or anything to that effect. It looks pretty clean. Maybe it's worth that to him, but to me, it's not worth anything. I wouldn't fix that if it was mine to do anything with it. Even if they left it, this would go in the junk pile. It's a throwaway piece of equipment like many of them are. Make sure you're not wasting your time on pieces of equipment that are not worth putting any effort into. There's a ton of those out there, and you can get stuck real quick trying to fix things that really should not be fixed. There's a fine line to walk. Hey, if it's the middle of the winter and you don't have a whole lot going on, hey, sure, spend a little bit more time on some of this throwaway equipment. But during the busy season, you've really got to move through it so you can get through all of this equipment. You can't hold yourself up on something that's worth $100 when you've got larger and more expensive equipment that you can actually make a decent profit on. I'm not saying just say it's junk because you don't want to work on it, but don't put your time and your effort into something that's absolutely not worth it. We've got a ton over here. It's kind of the same thing. Some of these trimmers, the 4-cycle trimmers are probably worth a little bit more than the majority of it. But when somebody brings in, yeah, this is a John Deere, but I mean, to me, this is a trimmer that's not worth anything. I guess some people would disagree with that. Curved shaft, John Deere. Again, we'll still estimate it if all of the rubbers and everything are in good shape. No problem. But if all of that's all cracked out on this 2-stroke, toss it to the side if it's a $150 item. Do not waste your time with a Remington trimmer. These things are what, $89, $109? Very, very cheap equipment and normally not very well taken care of. I mean, look at that. That's just, it's not going to be worth your time to put a whole lot of effort into this. And this one is, let's see, so this one's 10 years old. How long does a curved shaft trimmer have as far as the life goes? Say a lot less than 10 years. Old tillers like this with this setup, I don't spend any time on them whatsoever. I mean, they're so old. This one, the fuel lines and everything are gone on. Not surprising there at all, but it's just not worth fixing. It's not worth your time. You're going to put so much time and effort into it. Even if you get it all fixed up, likely got a crankcase leak anyway. Stay away from those types of things. Obviously, the earthquakes are normally a little bit more value and a little bit more worth doing. Get a nice steel tiller, something like this. Put a little effort into it. It holds value. It's got value to it, and people are a whole lot more likely to spend some money on it. Got a Bowen's, kind of the same deal. Just got one of those weed eater engines on it. Look how beat up this thing is. Primer bulb. is gone. Again, they normally are. Is that customer going to want to put a carburetor and fuel lines on it? I don't know. I would say it's probably not worth fixing. Just off looking at it for 10 seconds. The bottom line is that on this lower end equipment, most of it's probably not going to be worth your time if it's much past flushing the fuel system, cleaning or adjusting the carburetor, or replacing the carburetor. Beyond that, if it's a chainsaw, obviously you're going to want to look at other things. No matter what it is, make sure that your pull cord's working. You can throw a spark tester on it real quick, check the spark, make sure it's not an ignition coil issue, and check out the brake if it's a chainsaw. Check out your features, the bar and the chain, obviously. But do not spend half an hour tearing it all apart, tearing the muffler and stuff off of something that is worth, at best, $150, like those pull-ons. That is just my 2 cents on this stuff. We go through a ton of it, and many times, the second you think you're going to go further and you think you should go further on the lower end stuff, it's a horrible idea. You realize that you've lost out on all that time very quickly, or the customer approves it for a large repair and you go through the whole thing and you find out, hey, guess what? Crankcase is leaking on this thing. You've got to do, on a lot of this older equipment, you've got to do more testing. A compression test and pulling off the muffler isn't everything that's needed many times. You can do a leak down test on it. More time, again, and with a free estimate, that is something that is cost prohibitive because you're the one putting your effort into that. So on some of the older equipment, we do change our pricing policy and we do change our estimate policy. If it's something that we think is not worth fixing, they want us to go further, okay, well, it's $45 non-refundable. Really, an estimate fee should be charged, and I'm happy that most of you guys do. That keeps your interest secured, and it keeps you from wasting all your time doing this. Now, if you're charging $45 or $35 or whatever it is, by all means, go a little bit further. Check it out a little bit more thoroughly before diagnosing some of these. But again, most of the time, it's going to be something that isn't even worth messing with on some of this lower end equipment. So choose wisely and make those decisions wisely on what type of equipment that you want to work on and what should actually be fixed out of what comes in your shop, especially if you're doing free estimates. Don't go down the rabbit hole and lose a bunch of money estimating and chasing down repairs that you're going to make very little, if any, on. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed the content. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned. Probably next week, if not the week after, we'll be doing a full rundown on riding mowers, zero turns, push mowers. Kind of the same thing, but a lot different because all of those things are normally worth fixing, while these aren't worth the scrap metal that you're going to get out of them.